Now, without any further delay, coming to tonight's session on product DNA in an enterprise versus a startup. Let me give an introduction to our very distinguished and eminent speaker of tonight, Amit Acharya. Amit is the head of product retail innovations at NCR. He is a former head of product at Gigster, leading a SaaS platform for future of work. Prior to Gigster, Amit led various products at IBM and enterprise B2B SaaS, software and appliances in the API, cloud integration and digital transformation space, catering to different industries such as finance, retail, automobile, telecom, non-profit, etc. He did his MBA from Duke University and MS from Purdue University. He's a storyteller to his two little kids. A very warm welcome to you, Amit. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here with us tonight. Handing the session over to you now.
Thank you so much, Shama. And I'll share my screen. And while I'm doing that, we all are storytellers as product managers, right? So I'm looking forward to this session here. Give me a second here. I'm just sharing my screen. All right. Shama, can you please confirm you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Amit.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, team. So thank you so much, Shama, for having me here. And it's my pleasure to be here. So as Shama mentioned here, just a transition just about me here quickly. I started my product management career at IBM, experiencing scale of products, scale of organization, scale of employees. From there on, I transitioned to Gigster, where Gigster, I was leading a product. It's a startup based in San Francisco, from 0 to 1. So making this product in a completely different setting of a startup. And then from Gigster, I just joined NCR this week. So I'm transitioning to a mid-enterprise where I'll be managing a retail product portfolio. So as part of today's conversation, what I want to do is kind of establish the backdrop of startup and enterprise. As the title says, I want to take the journey of a product manager as an actor, which is in the backdrop of startup and enterprise, show the 3 pillars of conversation, which are primary to this conversation, and also discuss the frameworks, tools, and techniques that I have found useful. Having said that, there are multiple frameworks that are available in the market today. So I may not cover all of them, but my goal here is to share my learnings and my mistakes through my journey that can be helpful to all of you. Now, one thing to take away today, right? And this slide is by design not complete, which is I want you guys to take a visual of it. And when we come back in the end, I'm going to finish this visual for you to take away. There are gears in the system, and you, a product manager, are gears as you see it here. But we'll come back and finish the takeaway once we finish the session here. What we will not cover today. So as I mentioned earlier, we are going to talk about frameworks, but I do not intend to go deep into any framework here. We're going to compare it. We're going to show them. Again, they all can have their own separate session. I'm happy to come back and talk about individual framework, but today's intent is not that. And we're not going to cover B2C enterprise. The learnings that I'm going to share are derived primarily from B2B enterprise. So just want to keep that in perspective as we go forward here. All right, so I want to take a quick poll here, Shama, just to understand my own audience, being a product manager. What type of business do you represent here? What type of segments of people we have here? So let's take a look at that. And I'm going on Zoom and yep, thank you so much. All right, so what type of businesses do you all represent here? That'll give me a good distribution of segment we're looking at here. All right, and I'll give you the live update here. As I see it, it's about 50% large enterprise, 38% small, which is kind of a startup-ish, which is awesome. And then I see 11% in medium, and I also some others. And I completely get it. You will fall in some bucket as well. These are all, just logical buckets for us to know. Anyway, this is awesome distribution. So we have about 44% large enterprise, 33% small, and 11% medium. That's awesome. Thank you so much, folks. So let's go back to our conversation backdrop here. All right, so before I start, I want to kind of set the stage here, right? On one side, we have startup and one side we have enterprise. And after working in both settings, what I have experienced is there are 3 different dimensions where they both differ. The first one is disruption, risk, and speed. And what I mean by that is startups by nature are built for disruption. I mean, take, for example, Uber or Slack. I mean, they are there, they look at the market and they disrupt it completely, right? And because they are disrupting, they are actually extremely risky. As we all know, 9 out of 10 times startups don't make it, right? And because they are so risky, speed is of extreme essence when we do a startup, which means you're going to move fast, you're burning cash at a very high rate every month, and you're going to prove your market fit as soon as possible, scale, adopt, all of that, right? We're going to talk about it. So from that perspective, startups are revolutionary, right? But if you look at the enterprise setting, if you compare the same three dimension, enterprise do disrupt, but the disruption is not as much. They are usually looking for adjacent markets. From a risk perspective, the risk is high, moderate, you can say low, but nobody's going to lose their job if a product fails. I mean, somebody may, but my point is the company doesn't stop working. And third is speed. You can always argue that enterprises are going through transformation. A lot of enterprises I've met and I've worked with directly, digital transformation is happening and they're trying to move fast, but you cannot compare the speed to a startup. However, I'll take outliers like Amazon and some other companies where product development, product design, and product rollout is much, much faster. Look at the number of products Amazon ships, given its scale and size, and that's phenomenal. That's a reflection on a culture and a separate topic altogether, right? So what I want to talk about is enterprise is much more evolutionary, startup is much more revolutionary. And as a result of that, you as a product manager, your skill set is for the most part is same, but you need to know which tools to apply when and how. So what I'm going to do now is take you through the journey of three different pillars. The first pillar is around concept, which is when you have an idea, how do you ideate on that idea? How do you take it to the market? How do you try it? So we're going to go into problem, ideation, and fit conversation, comparing the two settings here. And what worked for me, what I've seen in the market, what I've read a lot about, I'm going to share those insights here. And I would love to hear from you. So if you have ideas and thoughts, let the question answer box go on flooded and we'll attend it as we can get to it. Execution is about roadmap and approach to prioritization. And third is go to market, which is about stakeholders and stakeholder management, funding, and also sales go to market. I can cover the conversation about that as well. Now, among the three sections, I'm going to put much more emphasis on concept and spend much more time there. And then we're going to go execution and go to market. All right. So let's jumping into the concept here. In the concept piece, as you can see in the breadcrumb on the top, the first idea is, the first item is problem. As product managers, our basic primary job is, find what problem are we trying to solve, be it startup or enterprise, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we are looking at a problem and solving the problem. So the fundamental issue there is how do you unpack the problem? How do you lay down the assumptions so you can challenge yourself, you can challenge people around you and go and understand the fit for that problem. I've used about all three of the frameworks that you see on the slide. When I was in enterprise, I've used business model canvas. I'm going to talk about it. I've used lean canvas when I was in the startup. I've also used one pager business case, and this is a hyperlink. You can Google Sequoia Capital business case, you'll find it. It's a single one pager. All of these three takes about 30 minutes for you to write down, maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours max. And that's awesome. I'm not saying that lean canvas works for startup and business model works for enterprise. I'm not saying that. I have used this in different settings, and I have my personal recommendation and opinion about what works the best and what I would do moving forward. So I'll share with you as we unpack here. So lean canvas, this is an example. I took a picture from this YouTube, so credits to them. But the idea is lean canvas was an improvisation and adaptation of business model canvas. And this was done by Ash Maurya. And the reason I like it, the reason I like this more than the other, as you can tell, is because it's very entrepreneurial mindset driven. It's very driven from a standpoint of what problem am I fixing? It starts with a problem, right? And many times we forget, where we're sitting in a room and we're talking about solutions and we forget what problem we're solving and whom are we solving it for. So this framework very powerfully enforces that. And I'm not kidding, this should not take you more than 30 minutes, maybe an hour. But it's exercise worth doing it. If you're doing it for an epic, do it. If you're doing it for an idea, do it. But it just brings things up front. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it allows you to do a reality check. So look at the problem, document the problem. Maybe you have some solutions in your mind. And the best part is it has key metrics. The metrics depend on the stage of where you are in terms of solving the problem. Right now, I'm ideating on a problem. I have some concepts for middle schoolers, right? A nonprofit. And my key metric right now is to 100 interviews. I need to meet with 100 school teachers. That's my KPI, right? In terms of measurement and to see if I'm meeting that KPI or not. Once I have the interviews, Then I need to figure out, whether there's a pivot or a fit, right? Which we're going to in a few minutes here. On this canvas, you get to highlight the unique value proposition. You look at the unfair advantage. And the best part is the customer segments as well, which is, again, I'm going to talk much more detail about customer segmentation here as we look at. So another thing, people ask me, do I do all of this together? And I say, no, you don't have to. As long as you're focusing on problem and solution, maybe on customer segments, very, very important problem. And if you were to ask me two things which are very important, I would focus on problem and customer segment first, and everything else will follow after that. So that's why I like this model really well, and I've adopted it personally. The next slide is about business model canvas. And I get this question many times where, hey, we have a business model canvas, and how do you use it? So the way I used it back in enterprise is, as I told you earlier, enterprises are looking for adjacent mostly. Again, this is not 1 or 0 answer. Most of the time, enterprises are looking for adjacent markets. They are trying to do a market expansion or a market penetration, right? So think about a company that has software on-premise is looking to go SaaS with a similar solution. So which means now you're kind of, doing a hybrid deployment, hybrid cloud deployment, and looking to go into this adjacent market. So your customer segment kind of remains the same. I mean, these customers may bring in some adjacent customers, but they're not vastly different the way in startup you have to discover those customers. Customer relationship exists, value proposition you kind of know, key activities you do today, and key partners. The biggest impact here is you already know your channel partners that you want to tap on if you have an idea which is in the adjacent market. That's why this picture, this view is really good when in an enterprise in a big market looking to kind of expand or go into adjacent market. Having said that, if you ask me, Amit, which one do you prefer and which one do you work with? I work with the lean canvas model. And the reason is, as I said earlier, enterprises are going through transformation as well. And it allows to have the right discussion with the right stakeholders, be it engineering leader, your executives or customers, to kind of validate that concept here. So that's my view. And you can either use Sequoia Capital or the business model canvas or lean canvas, but I personally like lean canvas more than this, but I've tried both. Give it a shot. It doesn't take a long time here. All right, so let me take a poll here, Shama, another one, as I'm also looking at time in the sake of keeping pace here. I'm trying to understand what kind of framework do you use? So if your framework doesn't fit into this, my option choices here, feel free to put it in the Q&A so at least we understand the different types of framework that you use or you have used. So I'm watching the poll here and see what happens. So it looks like that's awesome. I see a lot of others as well, by the way. That's cool. So I'll let the poll stabilize here. And what I'm seeing here is there's about 50% lean business canvas, 30% is the business model canvas, and 20% others. So all those who have said others, I'm really interested in understanding what are those. So feel free to please jump into the Q&A section or the right place for you to Q&A for us to know what these models are. Thank you so much, Shama. All right, so I'm going to move forward here. So let's talk about the second aspect under the concept, right? Which you look on the breadcrumb, which is ideation. So now you have this problem, you have this hypothesis that you have. So what do you do with it? In case of a startup, when you have an hypothesis, you ideate on potential solution, you come up with an idea, and you create a draft mockup. And this is where I also get what I've done as a draft mockup is I literally created scrappy mockups on PowerPoint, taken to the users on the same day, got the feedback on the same day, and next day my mockup was completely different, right? So the fancy part of that is that you don't really have to worry about, and there are a lot of tools. There's Balsamiq and then different ways of mechanisms for you to create mockups. But my point here is just pick up on the pace, pick up on what you can build versus perfection. And the more quickly you ideate, the more quickly you get that feedback, the faster you're going to go and narrow down the scope of the problem you're solving with the people and the market segment you're solving for. The item number 3 is about segmenting the user. And I can't harp more about any topic in this deck more than segmenting our users. Many people that I've spoken to, we realize very, very late that it is an important element to segment our users. Be careful, be smart about how, and to identify the segment you're going after. It could be, people age of 14 and 40 or 55, right? That's too broad. How can you narrow it down? How can you, you know, come to a point where it allows you to get that feedback? And I'm not saying it's hard and fast. Once you ideate, you will realize your segment is also going to change based on what you're learning. So the way, what I did in past my experience, which has been very, very useful to me, and I'm taking it forward, is I create lean personas. So you can Google on lean personas. Lean personas are basically personas you build for 3 months. So I build lean personas. What are the goals of an individual? What are the motivations? What are the pain points? And you give them a name, and you socialize in your groups of people, and you use those names as part of the conversation. And the biggest part is this persona will change. You establish the fact that 3 months from now, my lean persona may evolve. We may even remove a persona altogether. We may add a persona, or we'll even evolve this persona. And that's very awesome because it gives you the flexibility and speed, and you're not tied to something specific. So I would recommend to look at that. Or if there are different ways that you're done, then I'm happy to answer those questions too. Once you get that, you're going to validate, you're going to get the feedback, and you get to a point of proof of concept. That's startup. Now let's compare this with an enterprise. As I spoke earlier, in a typical traditional enterprise, there are adjacent markets, which means you have existing customers. So leverage existing customers. As a product manager, if you're not doing that, then you're missing out on a gold mine that is available to you at your fingertips. In fact, I will also share many folks that I've spoken to in startup, including myself. I didn't realize the luxury of being an enterprise where access to C-level executives and access to a very important buyer and user personas and stakeholder was so easy. You reach out to your sales guys or sales team, and they will make the connections, and you're talking on every week basis. However, in startup, it's not that easy. Everybody's time is precious. You go LinkedIn, connections, network, friends, you somehow try to find the right people, and it's hard. So when you have access to a gold mine, use it. And once you have the access to the gold mine, you have identified an adjacent problem like transition from on-premise to SaaS. You have a solution, now you have a mock-up. Everything else is same as what you do in a startup. Again, it depends on the processes you follow in enterprise. It's up to you what you do. But there's a lot you can learn, I have learned from startups culture that influences the way I work now within an enterprise as well. So you get to a point of a proof of concept here. I want to talk about the third topic, which is really near and dear to my heart, and which is product market fit. And every startup aspire to get to this phase as soon as possible. Investors love to know when you say you have product market fit. So my question is, okay, what is product market fit, right? A product market fit is simplistically put that a burning need in the market or in a segment of the market has been met by your product, right? Which is awesome. So how do you know that? How do you go about driving a product market fit? So as we spoke earlier, product market fit, you have a POC, you have identified the users. I've come into this concept of involved and vested users. And as you can see in a startup, I've listed you need to have involved and vested users. And what I mean by that is, so what are vested users? Vested users are users who are vested in giving you very frank and candid feedback. They are not your friends. They are not your family. They're not your neighbor's grandma who's going to tell you what works, what doesn't work. That's wrong. These vested users are really giving you critical, harsh feedback in terms of what your product is all about. So how do you get vested users, right? So what I'm suggesting here is have a paid pilot. When you start a POC and when you want to engage a customer or a potential co-developer, innovation partner, somebody whom we can co-develop, have it paid. Even if it's $10,000, even if it's $5,000, even if it's a minimal amount, doesn't matter. If it's paid, the stakeholder has a skin in it. They are making a case about it in their organization. Somebody's career is on the line about it because they have partnership with a startup. They're trying to do something cool. Have some skin in the game. That's your ideal scenario. But most likely, or most often than not, you may not even have a paid pilot because you're so new, you don't know whom to go to after, right? And that's where I'm introduced this concept of involved users. Involved users are users that are from enterprise that you find out either with the help of your sales team or your connections on LinkedIn or your past work relationships. And these users are very motivated and they are in the similar business or in similar problem space that you're trying to solve. And they work with a lot of startups, so they understand how important it is to have open, honest feedback. In my experience, when I did not have paid vested users, I actually had a pool of involved users, and I would meet with them every alternate weeks. And I would ideate with them on messaging, positioning, as well as the designs that I would mock up. And I got a really good feedback. I mean, it allowed us to pivot on certain key capabilities within the product that we were not thinking before. So I'm not saying you need paid and you can't survive without paid. I'm talking about enterprise. Again, enterprise here. I'm not talking about LinkedIn's and others kind of startups. But my point here is that think through it. Think about where can you get users who can give you good, solid feedback. Now, the reason is if you don't find product market fit, you're burning cash. You're burning cash every month, right? And it's expensive. So if you burn cash and if you don't have product market fit, implies two things, or maybe many more. But in a simplistic way, you either have to pivot to something else, find another market and try that if you have cash and luxury of doing that, or you die, right? And that's the reason why 9 out of 10 startups die. The other aspect, so if I contrast this to enterprise, and let's take the example of on-premise to SaaS, you have vested users. You already have users who've paid, excuse me, pardon me here. Sorry about that. Who actually has, you have paid users. So all you got to do is, get access to them and validate, and they will give you the time. If you, as product managers, we all empathize and we understand our customers and all the good stuff that we do. People are willing to talk to you if you talk to them about their problems and what you're trying to solve. So I don't believe there is dearth of users when it comes to enterprise. You just have to know how to find them within the organizational boundaries that you have. Now, what worse could happen if you don't get the right feedback in case of an enterprise? Fine, your POC get discontinued, some funding gets shut down, but nobody loses their job. That's why the risk is so low, or rather moderate in enterprise versus the risks being so high. So how do you measure product market fit, right? And as I mentioned earlier, that product market fit results in potentially 3 outcomes. And there could be many more, but I'm simplifying it for you all. One outcome is you have attained product market fit, which is like superhuman, and I'm going to talk about it. The other one is you found something is not working and you pivoted to something else and you became slack. And the third is you are a market leader and you are doing amazing. And suddenly you realize that the market changed and you lost the market share. The point being, product market fit is a journey. And as a product manager, I want you to take away that with you. Don't be satisfied and complacent, regardless of what the numbers tell you. You've got to watch out for changing market, the entrants. Clayton Christensen introduced this concept of disruptive innovators, right? Coming in from the bottom up of the stream. Keep an eye on them. It's very, very important. Let's talk about superhuman. So the way superhuman measured their product market fit, and before I go there, Sean Ellis had an hypothesis, and he actually did some surveys, and he found out that if you ask your users one question, how disappointed will you be if I take this product away? And if 40% or more tell you that, oh yeah, we're going to be very, very disappointed, don't do that, then you have achieved product market fit, right? That's based on his research and survey. I'm going to go there. So Rahul Arora, who was the CEO, founder of Superhuman, he looked at his data and they were less than 40%. So then they looked at the same users, and there's an amazing article, it's part of this deck, by the way. They looked at the data and then they started segmenting their customers. And this is why I was harping earlier that customer segmentation is really, really important piece. It doesn't matter if you have it right or not, but what matters is you have a segment to go after. And then you will learn and you will change your direction and you will fail and all that will happen, but make sure you're very focused about that. So they started segmenting their users and retaking those surveys again. And as they kept doing it, they realized that their score is starting to go more from 22% towards 40%. And when they started getting the feedback, they started making those improvements where these users were even more involved, right? So their numbers started inching up more. And then after that, I think one thing they also did was the users who were on the fence, they started converting them, and that's how they achieved their product market fit. And today it's a huge success. So that's gaining product market fit. The other one is about Slack. And what I want to talk about is when the founders started Slack, they were not really working on Slack, as some of you may know. They were actually working on a gaming company. And they tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. It didn't work. But while they were working on the gaming company, they realized that to talk to each other, the IRC, which is Internet Relay Chat, wasn't very productive, effective. So they built their own messaging communication tool internally, which was awesome. And so the gaming thing didn't work. And if you look at their, some of the articles they talk about is during this time they said, hey, we have something in messaging that we may be much more, we are going to come back soon with something really cool that we're building on. Point being that they pivoted to something that they were building, which was called searchable log of all collective knowledge or something like that, which is now called Slack, right? But the story here is how they pivoted to something that is super successful today. And last but not the least, BlackBerry had 50% market share of enterprise market, in terms of about a couple of years ago. And suddenly Apple happens, iPhone happens, and slowly that market share is completely taken away. And today BlackBerry is no more the leader. The point being, which I mentioned earlier, is don't lose sight of your market, don't lose sight of your changing landscape in the market. And product market fit is not a one-time concept that you ideate upon. It's something you keep doing over and over again. And what I call as ideation factory, you keep that factory running forever as a product manager. Let me ask this question to the team here. Have you driven product market fit? And I'm going to look at some chats and questions meanwhile and see if there is something I can answer here. Yeah, Kalyani, I will share the article as we've done here. So let's see, the poll is on, and all I'm looking for is, have you driven product market fit? All right. And I will share the answers quickly here. So about 30% of distribution here has driven product market fit. And that's awesome. And the other, not. The reason I did not put an answer called maybe, because then, I would have seen a lot of maybes. My point here is, you may be doing product market fit. Don't get me wrong. I did not realize back in IBM when I was an early product manager that I was actually driving product market fit. So go back, noodle on it, look at some of the material here, Google product market fit. There are tons of articles about product market fit. Pardon, I'm not moving in my room here, so my light just went off. There we go. The light is back again. All right, so awesome. 70-30 is a distribution with 30% has driven product market fit. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. We are about half an hour done here. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. And I want to cover in about 15 minutes the next two sections and then give back 15 minutes for Q&A, which is execution and go-to-market. So when I talk about execution, as a product manager, we all have a roadmap. We all, something that we all take pride in, right? What are roadmap? Roadmap, somebody will say it's point A to point B. It's a feature to feature. To me, roadmap are market-driven pillars of investment. And these market-driven pillars, I call them market-driven pillars because market may change, market will change. And as a result of that, your pillars will change. And as a result of that, your roadmap will change. So your roadmap is not a straight line. It's not a path from A to B. To me, it's not a list of technical items in an Excel sheet with a score next to it and dates next to it. That's not your roadmap. So I want to make sure you understand that your roadmap is like a zone that you're kind of aspiring to move towards, and that zone may change. So let's talk about startup. Roadmaps are extremely malleable. My roadmap was literally 3 months. I would make a roadmap for 6 to 9 months, but honestly, it would change completely. So they are very malleable just because you're learning. And when you're learning, don't hang your hat on it. When you're learning, set the right expectations with the executives, set the right expectations with the stakeholders. that we are going to change, we are going to learn, we're going to fail. And the more we fail, the better it is. Of course, you're burning cash, so somebody is not happy about it. So you got to find that balance as well. The 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 horizon here is about 3 to 6 months. I would say is still pretty far if I were to think about it. On the other hand, the roadmaps in case of enterprise are not that malleable. I've been in situations where they're hard coded for a year, and it's very hard, and it becomes a very waterfallish model. The good news is the customers that enterprises now serve understand agile, and they want to roll out features much faster to their customers. So now they understand why you as an enterprise want to move fast as well. So so organizations have evolved, and now there's much more malleability in the roadmap as well. I've seen typically a 12-month horizon or a 9-month horizon for roadmaps in enterprise. There are a lot of cross-dependent dependencies, and that's why it makes it a little bit harder to make it malleable. But my one key takeaway on this is try to push for malleability. Roadmap is not a straight line. So what I learned from startup is it's okay to change. Now I understand there are customer commitments. I understand there are strategic commitments. In case of an enterprise, there are corporate commitments that you got to adhere to. And I'm going to talk about it when we talk about the next slide, which is prioritization here. What is prioritization? Prioritization is not, my feature is more important than yours, or you know, engineering things, this is important, and product things, no. It's about a realistic path to the market. How do you pick the right things from the bucket, the big rocks, or the small little cool things, the bells and the whistles at the right time to the market? In case of a startup, it depends on the stage. At the market fit, what you're looking for, think about it. All you're doing is you're getting some maybe 2 or 3 pilot customers with maybe 100 users, let's say. You're onboarding them, you are giving them the experience of your POC, and then you are retaining them. You want them to stay on as long as possible, right? I mean, that's your goal. So your prioritization features or capabilities or value depends on those 3 elements, right? I mean, you're looking at activation. Can somebody log in, frictionless, amazing experience, they love it? Are they able to use it? And one thing I'll say, don't like, one thing is to take the qualitative feedback, which is important, and I believe in qualitative feedback. But if you can insert quantitative feedback through telemetry, through instrumentation by segment, or some tools, there's so many tools available now, that will give you not what the users say, but what the users do in your product. And that is immensely helpful to a product manager. At scale, you're looking at acquisition and revenue. And by the way, this is not my term, AARR. It's called Pirate Metric. If you Google it, you'll find it. But it's a good framework. It allows you to focus on what is important at the time of where your company or where a startup is at. Prioritization speed is amazing. Like, you find something today and you kind of discuss huddle quick, it's done. In case of an enterprise, it's a little different. And that is, you're focusing on what's your corporate goal. And I'll tell you an example of my own experience, that I was building a platform back in IBM, and that platform sits on top of 5 different products, and they each have their own P&L. So now I have a P&L on the top, and these products have P&L at the bottom. So everybody's vested to drive their P&L, right? So the right incentives are not aligned for whatever reasons, which is okay. And there are business reasons for why organizations do that, and they're the right reasons or wrong reasons. We all can debate about it. But the idea is, you're looking to build something. How do you then, partner? How do you then prioritize with your neighboring team, peer teams? And there are ways. First of all, is to build relationships with the product manager downstream, have transparency with your executives, and then insert malleability in the roadmap, which is what I talked about earlier. So the more you educate people about, our goal is penetration, goal is expansion, that's what we're going to do in terms of prioritization, and I need the malleability, then it's an easier conversation. The more people are okay with a changing roadmap and failing, the more you will have malleability, the more faster you'll be able to move, because the market is changing that fast. It's not you want to move fast, the market is moving fast. All right, I'm doing a time check here. We have about 20 more minutes. So we are on track on our time. So let's go to the last topic here, which is stakeholders. And I've realized that as a product manager, it is very, very important for you and for us and for all of us is to make sure we manage the stakeholders properly. And what I mean by that is set expectations, send regular updates, have cadence. We all have judgment of what is a regular update is. It's not an email 10 times a day, right? But bottom line is be transparent. That is what I've learned. Biggest lesson is be open, be transparent about your roadmap, bring the right stakeholders, whether they are cross dependencies across or within your organization. Just be open about it. So in case of startup, it's customers always, right? There are stakeholders. Current investors, you'll work with your CEO or CFO or your executive team to keep them abreast of the momentum of the progress that you're making, because you're interested in the next round of funding to grow and scale. And potential investors, there are others watching you as well, and there are others watching your traction as well. So how do you interest them without asking for money, right? It's hard, but it's an angle. And of course, executives, right? So you want to align them because your marketing and your PR is all going to be there. In case of an enterprise, it's customers, line executives, cross-department executives, functional peers. As I mentioned earlier, I'll talk about a complexity in enterprise is don't just, it's not about reporting on a status. It's about forming the right culture at the bottom. At the bottom, what I mean by that is when you're working with different product managers across different dependent areas and components, which I did, it's about building relationship with them, understanding their roadmap for what they're doing, helping them understand what you're building, and then have a regular cadence with executives across the board who owns these pipelines, and they're all aligned. And if there is no alignment, that's okay. We can come to an agreement. We can disagree to agree, or sorry, we can agree to disagree and then move forward, right? But the end goal here is that we're all aligned and we're all transparent. And that gives you the ability to change. And when you can change, that's when you gain speed. And when you gain speed, you can meet the market. So they're all connected. All right. And the last point that I'll make before I summarize here quick and give back some time is funding. What is funds? Funds is, of course, dollars, right? Or rupees. Funds is a financial path to stay alive. A startup, think of a startup, right? In a startup, you get dedicated funds to drive the startup. It's common sense, right? The point is you do good and you get funds, right? You continue to do good, you continue to show progress, you get more funds, and then you go public or somebody acquires you or you die, right? Which is okay. In case of an enterprise, most enterprises operate on a yearly planning cycle. Sometime in September, October, fall, as in the month in the season of fall or later in the year, there's this rigorous planning cycle that happens where product portfolios are funded at a corporate level. So everybody makes their case, they have ideas, and they want to do something really awesome. It has to align with the corporate vision, and you get funded. My point here is, in corporates, mostly, and again, there's no black and white answer, mostly you get funded and then you do good. If you do bad, it's okay. I mean, it's not okay, but my point is nobody dies, right? So the point being is that's, as a product manager, you got to understand it, that's how they operate differently. And so when you have some cool ideas, or when you have some innovative ideas and you want to get them on the table, then you have to know when, right? Many times I've seen in organizations, and you talk about some ideas, and I'm not saying organizations are so rigid that they won't invest. Nowadays, large organizations have this innovation arm, right, which is under the CTO or CTO organization. That's where there's a significant innovation happening, and you can always steal resources, right? Steal is a good word here, by the way. You can always go to have the right conversation and steal resources, produce something innovative. So organizations are learning that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but there is a very structured financial cycle in an organization, and you as a product manager should be aware of it. And if you don't know, go find out. You should know when it's happening. Maybe your executives are doing it. You got to plug yourself into it. And it's a continuous negotiation of funds to do the right thing, which everybody wants to do the right thing, right? But there's only so many resources and so much you can do. All right. So if I were to summarize here, and as I wrap up for the next 15 minutes here is, what's see, that's work in progress. And this is what I call work in progress here. This is gone. All right. See, this is what iteration. This is what product managers do. So you segment your users and validate. I cannot assert that. And if you look at, again, search on Google, companies fail because they don't find the right market. That's the prime reason. So validate your hypothesis, but segment your users and keep talking to as many users as you can. Product market fit, very, very important for a product manager. Don't lose sight of it. It's a journey, it's not a destination. And lastly, leverage your backdrop. And what I mean by backdrop is we're all actors on a stage, right? My stage now is NCR, and it was Gigster, and then before it was IBM. And every stage is unique and exciting and challenging and full of opportunities. So leverage, know where you are, and leverage a backdrop to your advantage, and that will serve you really well. So now let me come back to one thing here, which is one thing to take away. And the reason I want to give you that picture first, so it's in your memory. My son always jokes with me, like whenever he wants to remember something, he takes pictures from his eyes. So here the point being is, in a startup, you are the machine. You, product manager, are the marketing guy, the designer, the sales guy. I've done all of these roles. You would create a mock-up, a scrap. I'm not saying you'll keep doing it forever, but when you're in the phase of ideating and concept, you're pretty much doing everything. So you are the machine and you are the machinery. And if you put yourself in the right spot at the right time, it works like a charm. And again, the outcome of the startup matters, but as a product manager, you enjoy the ride. In an enterprise, you are part of a machine. You are a small cog in a big, huge machinery. But think about this. Many times a small cog in the right place moves the entire machine. But if you're in a wrong place, no matter how hard you spin, the machine will not move. And you got to find that spot by doing the right thing for the business, right thing for the team, and right thing for yourself. So I'll leave you at that. And these are some links that I was referring to earlier, which were being asked in the questions. So I think, Shama, we have about 13 minutes, and that should be enough for Q&A here. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for the brilliant session, Amit. Really great insights. And we do have a few questions ready, but just give me a moment to share my screen.
Good.
Okay, so audience, please go ahead and ask your questions in the Zoom Q&A window or on the LinkedIn thread. So Amit, let's take this first question from Swapnil Dimate. He's a LinkedIn viewer, and he asked us, should we also create BMC or lean canvas for products which would be used by internal employees? Example, a sales app for sales executives.
And my answer is yes. Let me tell you something. Never consider internal experiences as just some tools. You are a product guy and or girl. My point is, treat them as your users and they will serve you well. So yes, they are your personas. So what I would do is, if you're building an app internally, treat them like a startup. Say, hey, who are the users? And the good news is, your people. The good news is they're vested. So right there, getting to market fit for the thing that you're building, it's awesome. So yes, answer is, treat them like a stakeholder, a customer who's going to buy a product, and build it that way.
All right. So Swapnil, I hope that answers your question. And there is another question in the Q&A window, Amit, if you could check that.
Sure.
Right.
Q&A.
So I'm going to
Sorry,
read it out.
I was looking into the chat.
Oh, okay.
No,
So
that's
this
okay.
is
I
from
got from yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Right. So this is from Shreya Sati. When significant behavioral change is needed among users to adapt to the new enterprise product, there may be a resistance to use such product or give credible feedback. How do we get credible feedback in such cases?
Multiple ways you can do that. First of all, I completely agree it's hard because they don't know what they want. Users usually, you can, when you look at their empathy, when you empathize with them to understand their emotions, they are frustrated. So there are different ways to do it. You can do UX analysis. You can actually observe them. Things that I've done in the past is I've taken designers with me. We have done workshops with the customers, and you sit with the customer in the room, and you actually come up with a set of tasks, and not you as in product manager designer. you talk to a lot of customers, you understand what are the pain points, and you come up with a path, and you watch them walk through that path. And that's one way to literally watch them and see, and they'll tell you, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. They will actually tell you, you will watch them and you will look at the body language, and that's one way I've captured their credible feedback in terms of understanding. And what you can also do, which is also we have done, is once you watch it, then show them something that you have. Say, hey, you took 7 clicks to create a Java object and then convert it into something else. I'm just making it up. Here's what we have: a 3-step process for you to get there, or a 1-step, or maybe a guided tutorial, right? So once you do that, then you'll start to see like, oh yeah, I really love it. So don't lead with it, because you don't want to lead the witness, but I would say first observe from a design, from a user experience standpoint, and capture those emotions, capture those feedback, and then come up with a design and then ideate it, right? Show them their next design and they're going to be less frustrated, and show them the other design. And don't just go to one customer or one user per se. I'm sure not one user, but one customer who have like 20 users. Try to spread it out. Get your customer base on a similar industry, similar geo. Maybe it's geo specific, maybe it's industry specific, right? So try to, again, segment and watch them if you can, if you have the luxury to do that.
Thank you, Amit. So audience, please go ahead and ask your questions, and let's make the best of Amit's time here.
And I just want to mention this. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter. You can connect with me if you have questions outside of this scope, just in general product questions as well, that you wanna just talk to me about some of the challenges you're facing. I'm happy to answer those as well. So you can reach out anytime.
Absolutely. Amit, do you have the email IDs and links to your LinkedIn as a slide that you could share? Probably for the audiences to connect.
Sure, I can send it right now in the chat. Is that okay, Shama?
Yes, please.
Give me a minute here. I'll do that. Okay, got it. And I'll also share the article here. That's LinkedIn.
Great. So audience, the recording of this session will be available tomorrow on YouTube for you to check it out. And you can discuss any further questions with Amit on LinkedIn or the email ID that he has provided.
All right, and this is the other one, which is the product market fit by Rahul Vora.
We'll take this next question, Amit, from Praveen Kumar. We do use the RICE to make the proper, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correct. It's we do use the RICE to make the proper prioritization. If we need to make sure we need to concentrate on the regularity measures as well, will that be a wow factor or required factor?
We do use RICE scoring model. Okay, give me a second here. I'm just proper prioritization. If we need to make sure, we need to concentrate on the regulatory measures as well. Okay. My first question is, why does that matter? And the reason is regulatory measures are mandatory. So if you go in a fintech, you have to adhere to certain regulation in countries and geos and all of that. So to me, they are required factor. I mean, if you cannot even launch your product because of the regulatory factor, it's a required factor. Now the question is, when is it required? So when you're ideating, right? When you're developing a POC, or when you're doing a product market fit, do you really have to support HIPAA or PCI or some compliances? No, you don't. So that's why I asked you, why does it matter? I want to know more context of it, which is, if you're in a product market fit phase, then no, then I would not, like, again, without knowing your question, where you're coming from, spending time on regulatory factors is not a differentiator because everybody has to do it. Everybody will do it. So you will have to do it. It's a commodity, right? Now, if you are at a launch where you're kind of, your customers won't come in because you don't have it, then it's a required factor for you. Now, can it be a wow factor? I don't know. I don't know about that. Whether if you have a delightful experience around payment, sending payment from US to India in like less than instantly, right? Still, to me, I don't even think about regulations there. I don't even think about dollar conversions happening. So I don't think so, but that's my myopic view here without knowing the big context it's showing. So I hope that helps you, Praveen. Okay, I
Great.
see a question from Rohit, as
Yeah.
well. Okay. And Praveen, feel free to reach out to me if you want to share broader context to me on LinkedIn, and we can take it from there as well. So Rohit says, would like to know more about developing a persona when you're developing a B2B per product and you don't have access to a lot of potential customers. If I don't have personas, I may not be able to come up with a good product. And if I have a bad product, I won't have enough customers to come up with the right personas. I understand that totally. So you have an hypothesis, right? Okay, so your challenge is you don't have access to a lot of potential customers. So here's how I would start, and very similar to what I was in earlier this year is you have a hypothesis that says that my B2B product is going to solve X. And because it's going to solve X, I'm going to build Y for it and have an idea of Y, what Y does. When you have an idea of what Y does, you also have an idea of who the Y is for, because you're solving a problem for somebody, right? You're not just like solving a problem. So start with the lean view of what you think today, which is I think Alex looks like an IT manager whose pain points are, keeping track of multiple software installed or SaaS installed, and whose goals are this, whose motivations are this, and then find that persona within your network, find that persona within your LinkedIn group, find that persona on, there are so many product groups on Slack groups. I can't emphasize on that. Go there and say, hey guys, I'm solving a problem X for Y, and I'm looking for some people who fit into this profile. Can you give me a 30 minutes? And I can tell you, there are a lot of people who are willing to talk. Once you get that band of people, that's your first batch of people that you want to take in and start ideating with them. And what you're ideating is, of course, your problem, your hypothesis, and the solution, but you're also checking on the persona. They may say, hey, I work in a banking company and I have a responsibility to engineering, blah, blah, blah. And then, but they may not be the right fit for you. So then what will happen is you will start to hone into your own personas because they're not the right personas. So that's how I would validate the personas. But the key point is the outreach. And the outreach when you don't have a potential customer is the whole world. Just go wherever you can. And I'll give you one advice, by the way, which I did not follow early in my career. I wish I had, is make cold calls. I get pinged by, and I ping other people too. I ping people who I don't know on LinkedIn. You ask 10 people for help, 2 will respond. And you will have one fantastic conversation with one person. That one person will give you contact to another 3 person, and they will talk to you. You know why? Because it came from this one person. So that's what I do. I hope that helps to you, Rohit.
Thank you, Amit. And in view of time constraints, we will have to end the Q&A here. Thanks for the participation, audience. And mentioning again, for any further questions that you may have, please connect with Amit on LinkedIn. Now, coming to the next part of the session, Amit, we'll need your help here. We want to declare the champion of curiosity for today. So you have the questions here in the Q&A window. So please help us pick the best question so we can give the reward. We did have a question from LinkedIn as well, the first question.
Got it. Okay. I think there's a tie, so you will have to solve that, Shama, but I'm going to make it a tie first.
No, please declare one clear winner for us.
All right, let's do that. I think Rohit's question is extremely important. And just to let you know, Shreyas, your question was awesome, by the way. It's a hard question too, but the reason I picked Rohit's question is many organizations and many startups, many of my colleagues and my friends and my peer product managers struggle with that. And it's important to understand that element. So Rohit gets the champion of curiosity here from you. Shama.
Awesome. Congratulations, Rohit. We will get in touch with you shortly with the reward. So, Amit, we have thoroughly enjoyed this session and it was great having you here. Complete pleasure. Please accept this certificate of appreciation from the Institute. So if you scan the QR code on the certificate, it will take you to a dedicated Hall of Fame page created for you with the recording of this session, which should be updated by tomorrow. Please share it within your network and we will be sharing the webinar recording on our YouTube channel as well. We are grateful for the time and effort you put to share your thoughts and amazing insights drawn from your experience. And I'm certain that our audience will benefit definitely from the methods you suggested. Thank you once again for joining us, Amit.
And pleasure is mine, Shama. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I learned a lot from all the audience as well. So thank you so much.
And audience, thank you for joining in. It was great interacting with you all. Do not forget to register for the webinar, which is on 16th of December. And with that note, I end tonight's session. Happy learning and stay skilled. Have a great night. Bye, Amit.
Bye-bye.